Let's bring out Jordan Palmer, one of our favorite guests, founder of the Quarterback Summit, training quarterback draft prospects since 2014, coach at the Elite 11. He's got a podcast now called The Quarterback Room. Just interviewed Alabama's quarterback, Jalen Milroe, excuse me. All right, let's jump into something. Let's start with NFL stuff. So, and I lean on you for this because you're looking at real film, and you Josh Allen, Darnold, Burrow, Mahomes, you had all these guys young, and you've been right on the money with them. I don't know if you had Justin Fields, but I do think there's something interesting, and I have compared him at times to Zach Wilson. When I watch C.J. Stroud, one of the things I was taught early is watch feet, watch head. Where are they looking? Stroud clearly identifies who's open and lets her rip. There is no pause. It's very definitive. When I watch Zach and Justin Fields, I would think they could see it. I mean, I see their head move, but there is something in the process that doesn't let them rip. I also think Zach's not that accurate a thrower consistently. So the Justin Fields thing, I've got the injuries. He's not winning a lot. What is, if I said to you, Jordan, what is your guess or what do you know is the one thing that's holding him back?
Well, I think with him, and you can look at this with anybody, right? What was the O-line like that year? Who was the play caller that year? When you look at somebody over a 2-3 year span. But I think when you have a dynamic runner, which Justin Fields, nobody's going to argue, he is a dynamic playmaker with his legs. The second thing you want to have is you want to combat manufactured completions is what I call it. So we're going to basically say that 10 to 15 attempts a game, whether it's screen, it doesn't even have to be a screen, or it's we're going to lift the coverage with this route to be able to throw it to this guy.
Layups?
Yeah, you have to, or open jump shots from the elbow in the NBA, which is a layup for me and J-Mac, right?
Yeah, right.
And so you have to be able to have those. And then the next phase is whether it's play action, drop back, you got to throw people open. And so I think that's that piece, that third element of being able to throw people open, which is what we are seeing C.J. Stroud do right now. And I think if we had to pick one thing that's impressive about C.J., it's, yeah, guys are open, and when they're not, he's throwing them open. And we always talk about a receiver creating separation. Well, quarterbacks can create separation with the accuracy, with the trajectory, and how they throw people open. And I think that's the part of Justin's game that has gotten better, but I think that's the thing that would unlock him and I think take away any of the uncertainty on him.
Are you surprised by C.J. Stroud?
I'm surprised that a rookie is playing at the level where he's a legitimate MVP candidate. I mean, just go off the numbers. It's legitimate. I'm surprised that a rookie is playing that way. I'm not surprised, and I'm surprised that a rookie in Houston, based on they just weren't good last year. You know what I mean?
Like, owner down,
new coaching staff, new everything.
Yeah.
It's new. Everybody on that team is doing something new for the first time. So I'm surprised with that and those circumstances that it's happening. But if I had to pick somebody the last couple of years, CJ would be one of the guys I'd pick because I've been around him since he was a kid. I mean, he was the last kid we invited to the Elite 11. We took 22 kids that year.
What do you mean? So he was
borderline. He was the last pick. It was all right, we got one more spot. And he ends up MVP. He wasn't even, I don't even think he had Ohio State offer at that point, right? So he's just, you give him a little bit, and he's just going to take the whole thing. And I think it's that plus the way that he throws it, which we're all so impressed with. I am surprised of a rookie having that level of success. I'm not surprised that it's CJ. And anybody, if you guys get a chance, whenever you spend time with him, you're going to be a much bigger fan after you meet him in person because he's just dynamic.
So I said this about Caleb Williams is what is not the real world. This is why so many college quarterbacks, especially at big powerhouses, struggle in the NFL. They never get hit. They never trail. There's never any chaos. So I said, this is actually strangely bad for USC, but great for Caleb Williams. He has to win only by shootout. He doesn't have great protection. He now has to carry a team that's out of the running for anything legitimate. In a weird way, I look at this and I'm like, oh, this is what the NFL is.
Mm-hmm.
You get a bad O-line and injuries. Oh, your defense stinks. You're always trailing. When you lead at Alabama your entire career with a great run game, you say this about Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart trailed for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. What do you make of the trajectory? Has he been dinged? Crying in the crowd, the fingernail. Has he been dinged to you?
I think he's been dinged in things that are irrelevant. I think some people in the media aren't going to like that thing he did, and some people on Twitter aren't going to like the other thing he did. I don't know that he can do anything to ding his draft stock. I think that he's going to be what he's going to be, which is going to look like one of the best prospects we've seen. But I look at it, again, for the role that I play in a lot of these guys' lives. Sometimes I coach them all the time, and sometimes it's a workout here or there. But when I look at Caleb, I look at it the next decade, and he's going to get reps. And when I say this year, I mean like starting Saturday. He's going to get reps of stuff that he would otherwise not have gotten until he was in the NFL. And that is the reps of your team is out of it. The thing that you wanted to play for is no longer on the table. It doesn't matter how well you play the next couple weeks. They can't win the Natty. And at this point, he can't win the Heisman either. And so having to I have no concerns that he's going to leave it all on the field and give it his all and continue to put out highlights and crazy numbers. But can you get everybody on the team to do that? Because Trevor Lawrence, when he went into his rookie year, and I did his draft prep, I don't remember exact numbers, but he was like 86-4, high school and college combined. He just never lost.
That's not real life.
No. And so then he had to learn how to do that as the franchise quarterback of an NFL team. Bryce Young's experienced that right now. Mater Dei, Alabama, and he could lose to Tyson Bagent from the Chicago Bears tonight. I think the Bears are favored. And so when you think about most quarterbacks have to go through that when they get to the NFL, it's not fun, and it's kind of like medicine that you don't want to take that you know is going to be good for you. I think the next month for him is really valuable reps at having to get everybody to raise their level of play when you're no longer playing for the thing that you've been training for all year.
So this draft class quarterback is better than we suspected. Stroud's better. Anthony Richardson showed a lot. Will Levis looks pretty darn good. Bryce Young just needs help. This coming up class is getting labeled as a great class, and I think it's very good. The way I kind of see it is Caleb and Drake May should succeed regardless of landing spot. Then everybody else is landing spot dependent. And I would say I've seen Bo Nix play twice. I like him. I don't think he can carry a team with a bad O-line. He, to me, is a hard guy to get my arms around because I think Oregon is so well coached and so talented, they're not asking him to improvise. He just go out, kid, and hit the open man. And I've seen him twice live. There's somebody open. What am I to make? What do you see with Bo? I said, I kind of feel like it's Derek Carr. I don't know what to make of it. Is it him? Is it the staff? I don't know.
Yeah, I think anybody who has success throwing to somebody early in the progression.
One or two,
right? Like my eyes go here, he's open, I hit him in stride. It's hard to evaluate those guys because you could say, well, he only throws it to 1 and 2. You can say that about a lot of quarterbacks. You can say that about Michael Penix. Well, yeah, that's the way that the play was designed, and it's worked, so that's not a knock. I think one of Bo Nix's best attributes hasn't really showed up this year at Oregon. They don't run with him a lot, and they don't take 5 and a hitch from Gunn where he's got to manipulate the pocket and bounce around and buy time because the ball's coming out. And those are two elements of his game that I think are going to be dynamic in the NFL.
Oh, you do?
Oh, he's an explosive runner. And so like that, but we haven't seen that. You saw it at Auburn, but he ripped off some big runs at Auburn. But he, with the 52 start or whatever it's going to end up being, the most starts of anybody in college football history, we haven't seen two of his best elements because they've been scheming guys open. He's been playing winning football and getting the ball out of his hands.
No, they're really well coached. They don't fumble. There's no penalties.
Yeah.
They don't throw picks. Like when you watch him, it's like, it's just he's almost like just like a sergeant. Do this. I mean, he's just sitting back there as a teacher, and the kids are all doing the work. And it's not that he's not talented, but I like the way you summed it up. Michael?
And last week, they played Cal, and I watched tape with these guys and send them stuff. And the first series of the game, he hits his receiver in the hands, and it gets picked. So, like, they get the ball on the 20. Cal gets it. And then they fumble a ball, and they scoop and score. And it's like a 10-7 ball game early until it was 56-7. Just like even when they do, stumble
they were
a little
sloppy
bit, they
last
roll.
week, first time all year.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple of things about Joe Burrow because you've known Burrow for some time, and I always thought Tony Romo was the comp. I said the other day, very few athletes, very few golfers are better on the 18th at the Masters on Sunday. Even great golfers, Greg Norman, have unraveled. Burrow's got an MJ Jeter Elway quality where I think he's better in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 6. There's something about he's more focused. Did you? I mean, because the other day Bill Simmons had a tweet like he was watching C.J. Stroud set records, and I think it was that, and he was like, we got to figure out a better way to get these quarterbacks right because we have no idea where the stars are coming from. Maybe it was Will Levis. And my takeaway is we do see it. There are just very few that hit, and you're one of the few people that see it. So you knew Burrow was going to be good, but are you surprised at his crisis management and his ability to be special in harder situations?
It's easy in hindsight to say no, right? But I'll say no and why. There's only a couple people I've been around like this where I think one of his superpowers, it's actually not physical. I think it's the inability to process emotions in these moments. So some guys are great in the big moment because they've got a sports psychologist that have helped them figure out some tactics that they can handle that, right? Whether that's in sports, special forces, whatever it is. And then some people are able to just control their emotions, right? And then a lot of people are unable to control their emotions in a gotta have it moment. I look at all these different moments throughout his career because I've watched every snap. And that scramble he had at San Fran, I went up to that Niner game. I thought Darnold was going to play, so I went up to that Niner Bengal game.
Right.
And, the scramble, he rolls around on the right. Like, that reminds me when they were losing to Texas. Before we realized what LSU was, they were losing to Texas, and he scrambles, rolls right on 4th and 10, and hits Jamar or Justin, one of the two, whatever. And it just, turned the season. And then later in the year versus Georgia. And then so we've seen these moments. And I think the biggest thing with Joe is that he can be – I look at the AFC title game that they won when he went to the Super Bowl. They're in Kansas City. It's freezing. It was minus something, right? And they're down, whatever it was, 15, 18, 11, whatever it was. They were down big at half to the Chiefs. And he had an issue with his ankle. He had an issue with his pinky on his throwing hand. Their defense hasn't stopped Mahomes, and they couldn't get anything going on offense. And I think in that moment, it's 3rd and 6, and he just sees it as 3rd and 6. None of the other elements. So it's emotionally not processing how big this is and what's at stake and all of that. To me, that's the superpower, is your ability in those moments to not treat them as everything that's on the line, but look at it neutrally as, no, this is just 2nd and 4. Forget all the other stuff.
Yeah. Are you, you had Josh Allen as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel he's a little underserved. I do think, I've said this, obviously Pete Carroll's a great coach, and Belichick was, and McDermott. I said there are two types of coaches. Chuck Knox, when I was a kid, did this. So did Marty Schottenheimer. Cleanup guys. They take a tire fire, and they're organized, attention to detail. They clean up the mess. Parcells could do it over and over. Marty, over and over. It's what they do. Chuck Knox. I think McDermott's that. That coach doesn't often have great vision to the next step, right? Like Andy Reid can clean it up and then see things, see the development, see things. And that's the difference between good coach. Pete, by the way, is known as a good cleanup guy. He did it at USC, did it at Seattle. I do think he has vision. He saw Russell Wilson was at a place to move off. So Pete can do it. I feel sometimes with Buffalo, McDermott butted heads with Daboll a little bit. He butted heads with Leslie Frazier. Is it possible that you can be a good coach, but Josh Allen needs the vision? Because when you're a super talent, the layup stuff's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just, I'm not trying to say McDermott's not a good coach, but I feel like they've just hit a wall and they're never going to move past it. Daboll was that, and Daboll was the superpower, the vision.
Yep. When
the vision left, now you're just organized. Josh's numbers, efficiency, it's all very nice. So I guess my point is, I do feel like even as good as Josh Allen is, he needs a creative in the building. I don't see the creativity with their offense. Am I wrong? It's not schemed up. It's just, hey, Josh, be Superman. I'm just not seeing creative. And I felt like 2 years ago I was.
Yeah. I think Brian Daboll, because of what's happening with the Giants and Daniel getting the contract and now the ACL, but like that, I know he was coach of the year a year ago, but I think people don't realize just how special of an offensive coordinator he was, right? And when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, you go, well, look at the quarterback, right? Well, they got Diggs, you know what I mean? Yeah. I just think that it's not an indictment on anybody, Ken Dorsey or anybody. I just think Daboll's a very special coordinator. I got a lot of guys who I hear what they're running and I know how they install it. And there was things that Daboll did where, they'd take a shot up in a game, they wouldn't hit it, and the next play they'd take a shot again. And so there was a very aggressive mentality. And I think that's a hard thing where whatever the reason is, whether they move on to be a head coach or they just move on, that's a hard thing to replace. But the reality is this team's won a lot of games, and they've been in it at the end of the season for 3 years now. And
right.
I don't know the rankings right now, but they'll be in it at the end of this season
You
too.
think so?
I do. And with McDermott being a defensive coach, when you lose a corner and your middle linebacker and your best defensive tackle
as a defensive
in a 2-week window,
yeah,
there's more than just figuring out how we're going to stop this opponent. There's figuring out how to fill these major voids. And so I just think it's they've had so much success and they have so much talent, especially at the quarterback position and Josh, that it's about filling these voids, some vacated by a coach and some vacated by injuries. And I think Josh is an elite problem solver, and I'm excited to see how McDermott handles it from what's on his list of stuff to do. But I still think these guys are going to be in it at the end with a chance to make a run.
Finally, you're a GM. Put the pressure on you. I put it on Joel Klatt yesterday. Do you believe Caleb and Drake May should be the first 2 taken? Do you believe that?
100%.
Okay. Third.
Quarterback?
Yep.
Ooh, I was going to say Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, yes. Yes to that answer.
Yes to that one.
What you run it, your legacy's on the – because I don't think there's a clear – I've seen Penix. I love the way he throws, but he had 2 ACL issues.
Yeah.
That'd scare the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I think Jaden Daniels is going to go in the second round LSU. I think he's a really clever player. I like him a lot.
Yeah. I've seen enough out of Bo Nix to know that if I can play to his strengths, and I would say that about anybody drafted, right? Draft them, play to their strengths, because that didn't used to be the case.
Right.
I mean, my brother was a number 1 pick and didn't play a snap his rookie year because they wanted to give him a year to learn the system, and that's obviously not how it's done anymore, right?
Right.
Fast forward to Cam Newton going number 1, and they hired Gus Malzahn to consult, to teach the offense. So that's not the way it's gone. But I think with Bo Nix, I say this all the time, for young guys to have success, you got to be able to create time and space. You have to have the mobility to be able to do that. I love his. It's not a knock on anybody else, but if you do have a long list of injuries, I got to factor it in.
Yeah.
I have to factor it in.
Yes.
Bo's just been healthy. He's started 52 games, partly because he's good and partly because he's been available, right? And then I think just showing that, he was at Auburn and then he goes to Oregon, and it didn't take 1.5 years to get rolling. It didn't take 6 weeks. They started off hot last year, and they've been rolling. And then I love confidence and maturity. I've been around him enough to know how confident he is. He's married. He's got everything in order. His dad played. He's been around it. So from a maturity standpoint, he checks both those boxes for me. So I take Bo third.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.